Okay, so what am I doing? Two things. One, I'm going to be replacing the brake light base assembly with a new one, because I recently noticed that the black casing around these three wires that run to not only a brake light but also down and out to the license plate light have been rubbed through. And I'm guessing that it's probably from bounces or coming in contact with the tire. That's the only thing I could think of. This is not a very sturdy casing, and also it doesn't make sense why Honda would actually run the wire straight out the back of the casing instead of off to the side, where it would avoid any kind of contact with the back tire itself. And I do run larger tires on this. Instead of the OEM, I run Michelin Commander 2s, which are a little wider, a little higher. And so there's a little bit less clearance. Also, another thing I would mention too is that depending on how much weight you're carrying, because as a solo rider, it's typically set at about a 2 on the suspension. But if you're riding with 2 up or 2 up plus any kind of luggage, if you're taking it on a trip or anything, it really should be set to something that's a little bit higher as preload, so that it can compensate for the amount of weight that it's going to be pushing back up against on any of those bumps or anything that way. So that's the primary reason that I am doing this. And I'll probably end up trying to reinforce this a little bit, just give it some added protection with some additional electrical tape, mainly in these portions that will come into contact with the tire, or has the potential to, before it goes off to the side and connects to the sidewall of the underside of the fender. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I am looking in the near future to get larger saddlebags. Right now I'm currently riding with Viking bags, medium slanted bags, I believe is what they're called. I think at the time I got them, they were like Odin or something like that, to kind of go along with their Viking Norse theme. But I've currently just got the medium-sized ones on there, and they've worked out really well. But for long-distance riding, and especially riding with an additional person, I really want to get a larger set of bags. And in order to be able to do that, I need to get signals relocated to the back here, and most likely run along the back of the inside of the fender, drilling some holes in this, which this part is a lot easier and less expensive to replace than the rear fender if something goes wrong. And then just run them out along the back here. I don't mind the look of the signals themselves. I think they look pretty good. I got the bike because of the retro look of it, and so I'm just going to stick with those. I'll probably get some new ones, because I don't know if you can see it or not, but the way that these bags are and how close proximity they are to the lights themselves, they've kind of rubbed off some of the chrome painted finish. Of course, these are not chrome dipped, I don't think, like some of the other parts on the motorcycle that actually get hot. But I will be getting replacement tail lights and using the wire from the ones currently existing on this. I'm going to cut that up and use that as the extension, so I can still stay with the original factory wiring color, and don't have to worry about getting the wrong gauge or anything like that. So aside from that, and determining kind of where the wires can be run inside the fender, and if I need to get any kind of additional wire clips or anything to secure them that way whenever I do that, then that's where I'm going to be taking a lot of reference photos of the inside of the fender, and kind of determining where the best place to run those would be, so that they make the least amount of contact with the wheel, especially since that's why I'm having to replace the brake assembly. But that's what we're going to be doing here first. So we're going to be taking off the saddlebags, we're going to be taking off the trunk, the brackets, the side covers for the grab rails, completely removing the battery, or not the battery, completely removing the fender and the structure rail underneath it for support. So as you can see, the suspension is actually connected to the frame itself instead of tied into the grab rails. And I think before I get further into this, what I am going to do is remove this side cover on this side. Now I do have a 2018 Honda Shadow Aero ABS version. It's like, okay, well, what's the difference? This is the difference right here. This, on the ABS model, is the ABS modulator. So typically on a standard version, you'll have all of the main fuses over here, or at least the starter fuse and I think one of the other relays or something like that on the right side of the bike. This is all kind of been reconfigured for the ABS model. So you notice I got disc brakes on both the front and back. And the ABS version was all chromed out, whereas most of the standard versions are blacked out matte, kind of like the Phantoms. But this is the ABS modulator, so all of the fuses are actually located over here and then down below here. So there's a lot of the main fuses. This is the primary, I think, I forgot what fuse that is, whereas the main fuse for all the other circuitry and everything like that, these are the ones that are mainly for specific individual components. So you've got the ABS solenoid, you've got the ABS motor, you've got the turns, horn, stop, ABS main, engine stop, lumini, which I imagine is probably for the headlights, fan, engine stop relay, fuel cut relay, all of those. This side, we have got the main wiring for the turn signals and such that way. So it looks like the blue is the left turn signal. And these are pretty easy. You just kind of, let's see how we do this. Okay, so these clips are kind of challenged to get up, but if you take like something, you could take like a nail or something like that and just gently lift that up and then pull it the opposite direction and it'll come right out. So now these are all disconnected. We got the orange, the left turn signal, we got the blue for the right turn signal, and then the one that we're replacing right here is the brake light wire right there. So now we can continue to take off the remainder of all of these and kind of disconnect these wires, pull them through here. That one actually goes underneath that fender bolt. This bolt is already out, as we can see right here. Okay, so it's good, that's still in good shape. No scratches, and then we'll go ahead and feed this wire out. Oop, and that's looking good. So, that I can just lay these down and not have to worry about getting messed up or anything that way. Keep all the screws together as well with their proper location. And then I'll just put that right there. Might wipe these up a little bit before putting them back on again. So I'll do the same thing over on this side. Sorry about that. And we got this taken out, so that's good. And then unscrew this. So now we got that off, and then just run that there, and then this, I think, should just come off. Because I really don't want to end up scratching the fender. Good. All right. And that is what we're working on right there, as you can see. So wait to get the light replaced. Probably also wipe up the outside a little bit. Got some like rust and things that way. But all in all, that came off pretty cleanly. It's still intact. That's looking good. And just kind of whenever you do something like this, you may be distracted by the actual goal that you're on, but it also does help to see if there's any other issues that may be a potential problem in the future that you'll have to look into. It's good time to check the frame, make sure there aren't any cracks. Everything's still intact that way. No problems, aside from a road of dirt and grime. Then not too concerned about that. So everything looks good on that. So see about getting this fixed up, that replaced, the wire rerun, and then also kind of determining where I might be able to run the lights. Kind of just determine that. So let's get on to that. So what it looks like, along with the second point of why I was taking this off, was mainly to see where I could route the wires for the signals through the bike. Now, I really don't want to have to run too many I don't want to have to drill any holes if I don't have to, because it looks like right now there's only one way into the fender, and that would be through here. Now, it may be possible to be able to run both of the turn signal wiring through here and then along down the inside of this, and then out through either side here on the end, because it looks like, as long as there was enough room, I may have to drill that out just a little bit larger and make sure that I don't hit any of the metal frame there. Just kind of slightly drill that out a little bit more to be able to accommodate the individual wires that would slide in there. Turn signals. However, this was pretty much just fed up through there and then down that way. So it might actually be able to just accommodate or even add and pull out those wire holders there, or just zip tie those in there and then have all three of those wires fed through if that hole is drilled larger, because there is not a matching hole on the other side. You only have the three that's for connecting it to and holding it to the frame with the metal bracket underneath. So it might actually be possible to be able to do that without pinching any kind of wires or anything like that, and just run it through a little bit better that way. Try to maintain all the wires still connected. Wouldn't have to do as long of a turn signal wire on the other side, this side. And I will say, as I'm talking through this, I've not seen any, because honestly, there really have not been any good videos that I have found that talk about signal relocation for this particular bike, this particular model, or anything like that. So this is just kind of me looking at this firsthand and just determining what would actually work the best. So if I flip this on its side, get a better view on the inside here. There we go. Okay. Because we're going to be removing that to begin with. and unscrewing that to be able to run the wire through to there, which is, we're going to be referencing our shop manual. Afraid that was a crack or something, but no, it all looks pretty good. Looks like it may have run the tire at some point. That is our problem area. It looks like, not necessarily, I guess the wire cutting, the wires are fully exposed, but the rubber casing that is in there is definitely worn away and exposed that way. So we definitely are going to be repairing that. Good view. So we'll be taking off the screws from this. We'll also be undoing the screw from there and then taking this plate off. Which it looks like that may be the only screws in this. Aside from the passenger seat bolt there at the top, that would actually be holding this whole metal frame in place. Of course, it's kind of popped into the outside of the fender there. You can see there, and then up in there. And so yeah, we'll just flip this over so we can get a better view, kind of balance it on one side or another, and then we'll get to removing all of these screws and disassemble this thing so we can swap that out there, and also just kind of seeing where we can, I think we should actually be able to even run the other lines through there for the turn signals. So we'll get to work on that. And I did make sure that is also taken out. So I want to make sure to be very careful with this light bulb. And there we go. And just put it in here so it doesn't get any kind of body oil or anything like that on it and risk popping the thing. It's still in good condition, so I'm not gonna do that. Just keep that safe there, and then we're good that way. I don't believe the new one has, yeah, the new one does not have the gasket in it, so I'll have to pull that out. I cannot tell. Okay, yeah, that's not supposed to be sealed. That's supposed to allow any kind of moisture or water in there to be able to drain out through the bottom. So that's good. And I could probably go ahead and just put this in the new one. Okay, so we're good there. It's ready for the new light bulb. And then these bolts will just be unscrewed from the back side of here. And then that'll be our replacement. And we saw where that wore through there, so I'm going to wrap that with some more electrical tape before installing that. But before we do that, we've got to, I don't think I've got to unscrew anything here. Because we're not really doing anything like that. We'll go ahead and turn this back on its side. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to feed this cable through. Right. That was going to be too small. And there we go. here's our other connection. Probably need to tape that up too. Here's our other connection, and so that's good. So we'll just use our tweezers like what we did before, and we will just unclip this. Slide it in there, and then pop that out. And then you pull this wire through. Might clean up some of this stuff before I actually go through and feed those wires through. So we'll just leave this unconnected for now so that I can kind of inspect that, clean this up a little bit back here. So we'll just set that off to the side. There's no issue with that. Yeah. Because I'll also need to examine that to see what I'd be looking at as far as drilling through, because it does look like there's a metal piece in there. If I drill closer to the end there, then that may actually be too big of a problem that way, which is good. So, okay, and those go over those there. So I could probably just run this wire through, and then whenever I got it flipped back over again, then I can reinstall that light before putting it back onto the bike. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's see, probably need to go ahead and pull up these. Okay, so I've got the new base assembly in. The wires to the license plate is fed through this bottom grommet down here. I actually removed this grommet up here to go ahead and pull the wire through so it wouldn't be as awkward, since I knew that having reinforced this wire base area up here just a little bit more with electrical tape, it kind of provided another added layer of protection. Was going to make it a little bit difficult to kind of push it through. And so now I'm just going to fit this through and bolt it down and make sure the wires and everything like that are fully secured. And then I'll be able to install the rest of this. I also need to kind of reinforce and clean up some of the electrical tape on this switch down here before I plug it in, but I'll go ahead and run the wire through the base here. Okay, we'll go ahead and slide this back in and make sure that it gets seated that way. Pull that wire in there. We should be good that way. That's down, that's snug. Okay, so now we can go ahead and flip this over, run the wire through. Push it in, push it down. Just don't see why they did that like right up the center of the rear fender. And if I can get it a little bit more off to the edge. I know. Probably a better way of doing this.
be good, as long as that wire is kind of protected a little bit by that bracket back there. And that bracket there. That looks good. Okay. Okay, and I wrapped this end a little bit more too, just to kind of give it a little bit of a reinforcement. Okay, so I've already got one screw back in here, and that was pretty smooth. Got the rubber gasket back on. I'll just make sure that these are all tightened down. I'll flip it back over, and got a good connection that way. Got our brake line out here. And everything is looking good. We got that tightened down. You can get these tightened down too. I'm going to stick this up here so that it's out in the way. I don't have to worry about it getting pinched or anything like that. Yeah, okay. So, I'm going to be very careful. Everything is still that way. So, we got that. I'm going to have to run the wires for everything in for good. And then feed this through here. There was supposed to be some sort of a zip tie along the side here, but I'm guessing that in one of the previous services that I took it to, they must have clipped it and took it off. So, and I don't think that it does anything for or against the performance of the bike, but it's just one of those things. So feed that down through there, and then that'll be ready to reconnect. Might actually have to take this one out. Should be okay since it's trying to see this underneath there, maybe. Yeah, that seems like. Okay, so I think I figured out the routing of this. It went up over from underneath here inside that black bracketed section, and then I just fed it through over there and then came in up underneath. Of course, when I end up doing the turn signal relocation, then I'll be able to make that wire a little bit longer and maybe secure it a little bit better along with the other one. Maybe somewhere along the top of the fender, similarly to the way that one is secure, but just try to make sure that it doesn't get pinched or worn or anything. So go ahead and connect this final one. That locked in. The other two locked in. Slide that boot back down and over. Alright, so let's go ahead and put the key in, crank it up,
Brake light on. That's working. Turn signals. Right. Left. All right. All right. So that's good. Now we'll just get the saddle installed back on. We'll get the side covers back on with the saddle installed, and then we'll be good to go. So now let's start this up and check the connections. And that's changing out a brake light assembly. Catch you later. Okay, so it's been a few days, and I have not had any issues with the back tire necessarily rubbing against the cord, which is what the issue was in the first place. But I did notice after a couple of days that the electrical tape that I had wrapped around this to kind of provide some extra protection to it in case it did make contact with the tire is kind of starting to come undone. Now, that was just kind of like an immediate fix, I suppose, because what I had planned on doing later on whenever I did all of the turn signal relocation was to actually use a lot of, well, not a lot, but to use some of the heat shrink wrap for the wiring. And I do have some of that, and so I'll probably be, if I can see, I don't want to get into the original OEM tape there. Maybe, okay, as far as that goes. No, I think, yeah, a lot of the tape is still down around the base there still, so mine is probably right up here. Yeah. So I'll be cutting off a portion and just having the heat shrink kind of cover from here to here, and that way it'll provide a little bit added protection from any kind of abrasion, and it's also waterproof, so I don't want to affect any of the original OEM tape, and that may be what that is right there, so that won't be a problem. But I may, what I'm going to do is just wrap a small bit of electrical tape around there, and then I'll cut a couple of pieces of the heat shrink wrap for the wires, and then get that all set up, and then we'll put that back in place and then get it back on the bike. Okay, so I've got my tubing cut for the wire itself. This is a little bit wider than your normal wire heat shrink, mainly because I've got to fit it over the connector as well, because I'm not splicing any wires, I'm not cutting any wires or anything like that. So just making sure that it actually can fit through it smoothly and come out on the other end, which we're good that way. And then just kind of slide this down to the end there. We got that, and then I'll get the heat gun turned on. For this particular kind of heat shrink, I will say
If you don't have a heat gun, you can try a hairdryer. It's just going to take a lot longer to be able to do that. If you're going to be doing any kind of wiring or electrical work or anything like that for other modifications to your bike or replacements, then a heat gun would, you know, be a good suggestion for that. And you can get one pretty reasonably cheap for the cost of things nowadays on Amazon. And that'll heat it up, that'll shrink it the way that we need it to be, and we'll be all set. So I've got the sleeve on, good. Now I just need to get this heated up and have it shrunk. That should be good. That pull off a little bit. This actually counts, I think. That's good. I don't know if there would actually be a need to even do an additional layer of this, or even if it could. Yeah, I suppose it could. But I don't know if that's actually necessary. Because my main concern is making sure that it's still flexible. And I think even with that, it should be. Yeah, it's not too bad. I just warp the electrical tape a little bit. Yeah, that's not a problem. I don't have any intention of taking this off or doing any kind of cutting like that later on anyways, so that should be fine. Okay, so we've got this fed back through here. It's right up there. I might actually pry that out a little bit, come at it from a different direction, because it seems like it's a little bit pinched almost. Don't want that. Looks good. We got that up through there. Like wire fed through there. Got that protected and that close to the fender there as well, so that's good. And then I think it's just the electrical tape, so that's not a problem. All right, we'll get this connected. And then do a final check of the signals, and then that should be it.